So today I am joined by Irish rugby player Harry McNulty. So Harry, how, I suppose, first and foremost, have you been keeping throughout COVID? And how are you getting on? And what's your lockdown situation like where you are?
So, thank you very much for having me on, first of all, Holly. I appreciate it. And I've been good. COVID has been obviously very testing for a lot of people in many different ways. I've been very fortunate because I quite like the whole work from home scenario. I do a lot of editing for photo and video, which is a passion of mine outside of rugby. So I've been fortunate to be able to go through some old hard drives, look at old footage, and sit down at my computer and keep myself busy for a couple hours a day. So from that standpoint, pretty good. It's also allowed me to try a few new things. Trying to do like a little startup with like a talent media agency. Just kind of been doing that for like the last year. It's in the pipeline, and just working on a few things with a few guys from around the world, and working with talent who are kind of like myself, who are in sport but have passions outside of their sport. So that's been keeping me on my toes. And currently just out in Bermuda, just got here. I'm making my way over to the States, and I'm kind of doing the quarantining period here because I have to be out of Europe for 2 weeks before I can enter into the States. So
Right.
I'm doing all that. So kind of got away from the Irish lockdown slightly, which is nice. A little bit of sun. So all is well. Yes.
So going back a little bit to I suppose where you started playing rugby, where did your love, I suppose, for the sport come from? Was it in your family, or was it just something that you kind of came to yourself?
Yeah, great question. It would have come from my parents, really. So my dad played rugby growing up, and then obviously my mum is a big fan of all sport, but she loves rugby. And as a kid, we moved around a lot. I was born in the Middle East and went to London, New York, and then eventually made it back to Ireland when I was 14. So prior to 14, I was actually playing every other sport under the sun except for rugby. Ice hockey was my favorite sport growing up as a kid when we lived in New York. So I still kind of keep up to date with that through social media and kind of seeing what's going on and results and stuff. But only when I went back to Bahrain and Ireland did I first actually play my first rugby match, or I went to my first rugby training session. Learned all the basics, like how to do a switch and a loop and all that kind of stuff. So it really started from there. And then on my mum's side, her brother, he played rugby growing up, and he went to Rockwell College. So when I was 14, I wanted to go to boarding school. It was my choice, and I said I want to go to Rockwell. And my uncle, he won a senior cup with Rockwell. So it was kind of always there in the back of my mind that someone in my family has played and won a senior cup. So I actually was fortunate enough to play in Rockwell, make the senior cup team, and win a senior cup. And so did my brother after me as well. So that's kind of where it all started. And then it just kept rolling from there. By no means a straight path or an easy path, but yeah, just stuck with it.
And Rockwell, of course, as everyone knows, is quite a rugby-centred sort of college anyway, like the ones here in Dublin. But I suppose going to Rockwell and kind of having that kind of, I'm not going to say like stereotypical kind of rugby school behind you, but do you think that kind of benefited you a little bit in getting noticed, or was that kind of just not really taken into consideration?
I definitely think being in Rockwell helped me progress my rugby a lot quicker than, say, if I was just going to a club, just due to the fact that we were training 4 days a week. After school every day, we would have training for an hour. But then because I was in a boarding school situation, when we finished school, we went training. Then when we finished training, we went to study, and we were in study for 2.5 hours every evening. And then the first thing we would do after that is then we would, like, especially in the summer months at the beginning of the year, kind of September, and then at the end of the year, we would head out to the tarmac, and then we would play touch rugby. Or like if there wasn't any training on, like at lunchtime we would play touch rugby. So we were always constantly playing rugby, or had some sort of rugby focus on our, like, it wasn't pushed on us by any means. It was just off our own back. Whereas if I was going to a club, I'd only be going probably twice a week on a Tuesday and a Thursday. But there's nothing wrong with that at all. But it just means I had more exposure to it when I was in the boarding school setup. And then on the weekends, you're a young teenager with a lot of energy, and if there's no game on, everyone gathers up and you go play game of rugby down the pitch, or maybe some touch rugby in one of the fields. So definitely think that helped. And then in terms of like selection, all that stuff, that's really up to, you know, how you're playing. I was fortunate to be involved in a team that was playing really well, and you know, obviously we went to a senior cup final in 2010, then we lost, and then we went to senior cup final and won in 2011. So obviously there was a lot of great players that I was involved with. So that helps in terms of being able to build on your skills and play with great players. So I don't know. I don't think being involved in a big school made it any easier. It just, for a selection point of view, I just think it allowed me to develop my skills a lot better and become a better player for sure.
And then I suppose when you finished school, what was kind of the next progression, like in the going along the rugby sort of pathway, I suppose? Did you was it like a trial system? Was it, you know, you were called upon, or what kind of way did that work out then after?
So the usual way of doing things would be that you would play, you know, in school, and then you would probably play at a representative level at like Munster, Leinster, like any provincial level at 18s, 19s, and 20s. And then from there, you would hopefully, you know, get an Irish under 18s, an Irish under 20s World Cup, and through there you'd go into some sort of academy setup. So I didn't follow that path exactly. I played the under 19s, under 18s, 19s, and 20s for Munster, and then I represented Irish 19s for like 2 minutes off the bench. So I didn't like play a whole lot, but I still got a cap for Ireland under 19s. Never played Ireland schools, never played Irish 20s. And then I out of school, I went to university in Dublin for a year. I was in DIT. I studied forensics. I didn't get my top choices in the CAO. I got my third, but I loved it, and I studied hard and made good friends, and still kept playing rugby. I went to Trinity because they were the closest like club essentially to me in town. So went and played there under Tony Smead for a year, and then off the back of that, I actually got asked to go and play or be a part of the academy in Munster. So kind of picked up my life and moved down to Limerick for 2 years, and I was in the academy system and changed my college degree and went into food science and was there for 2 years. And at the end of that, then I didn't progress. I didn't go into a development contract or even my third year academy. So went back to Dublin and kind of just played club rugby for UCD, was in and out of the squad, never really played all that much. Kind of fell out of love with rugby for a while. And then I was very fortunate in the timing. The IRFU set up the Irish Sevens program in 2015 when David Nusifora came into the IRFU. He brought a man, Anthony Eddy, with him. He was the head of the Sevens, and they decided to set up this program. So from that, they had an open day trial, essentially. And my mom actually emailed to put me into the open day trials. That's how the system worked. It was just send an email and we'll give you the date and the time to come down. Mm-hmm. So I went out to Santry. There's the running stadium out there, and never been there in my life. Kind of in the middle of nowhere, into this hall. There was a few guys that I actually knew that I had played against at school level, club level, and we just had to do some simple tests, like a 10 and 20 meter sprint, a CMJ, and a fitness test. And then after that, got called in to the first set of trials, which took place down in Lansdowne. Played against basically everybody in the country that had gone to those trials that passed the baseline test. And then the week after that, then we played again against academy setups. And then I was just in the program since then. So by no means a straightforward path, which I hope, gives some hope to someone out there that, it doesn't always go to plan, but if you stick with it, then opportunities will arise. Like, I guess I'd be a late bloomer, I'd like to say. So,
yeah. Throughout kind of like from, say, school level and then up to when you were in the Ireland Sevens, did you ever sort of, like, you're still playing on the wing now, are you? Or
Yeah, there's a lot to. I can play basically anywhere at this stage, right?
I just
Uh,
specialize anywhere, or are you just one of those players, an all rounder?
so yeah, I honestly think I could play anywhere except for the front row, or 10. You could probably
Okay.
stick me in anywhere else, and I'd get away with it. At what level, I'm not sure, but I'd get away with it for a time being. But yeah, so when I was in school, the whole way through school, I was a center, and then a little bit of wing, but mainly center. Then when I was in college, again center, and then some wing. And then when I moved to the sevens, I played sevens for like 5 years, and literally 4 of those 5 years, I never played any 15s rugby at all. So I was playing in the forwards, and my style of play sort of developed more into like a back row style, bit more ball carrying, but like always like to try and turn over the ball, but just did a lot more of that. Basically, I was in lineouts, I was in the scrums, all that kind of stuff. So now I'm a back rower, uh, who can go into the back. So yeah, I'm a bit all over the place.
So, I suppose like we'll just take the sevens now for a minute. Would you have toured with them and gone off kind of on different things over the years? And I suppose what as well, like I was talking to someone else, I was talking to Shane Byrne, former rugby player, and he was just saying about the camaraderie like within the team. Like, do you kind of find that, yous are all kind of like a big family, sort of like going off to these tours and different things? Like, what's it? It must be nice to have those lads though that you've kind of worked with for the last couple of years, gone away experiencing this sort of thing with them.
Yeah, I mean, with the sevens, if you took a map and you put it on the wall and you threw a dart, there's probably a chance that we ended up playing there at some stage. Nearly, we managed to get around the world a lot, over the 5 years, and my first cap for Ireland sevens was in Bosnia, of all places.
Like,
So,
I didn't
quite
even
the sorry.
I said I didn't even think they played rugby in Bosnia.
Yeah, so I mean that's a whole other story in itself. But essentially, when the program started, we had to start in the bottom division. So
Okay.
if you were to compare it to like the Premier League and soccer over in England, they have like League One, League Two, Championship, Premiership. It was like that essentially.
Okay.
So we started in Division C in Europe, and that brought us to Bosnia, Croatia, uh, Czech Republic, Norway, or Sweden, sorry. So we went all over. But yeah, the camaraderie is amazing. I think what's very special about the sevens program is that you only have usually 13 guys on a tour. So there'll probably be 20, 25 guys training, but 13 guys would go away on a trip, if it was for like a World Series. But if you were going away just on a training camp, then you'd obviously have about 20 guys. But that doesn't leave room for any sort of groups, or like a clique is a horrible word. I don't like that. But you get what I mean from that. It's
Yeah.
like in a 15s program, you've got 30 guys heading away. It's too big to have just one group at all the time. You'll have 5 guys here, 4 guys here, whatever. So the sevens being 13 guys, it actually made everybody hang out together, become really great friends. There was no sort of different groups. We kind of did everything together, which was fantastic. So many like great memories from so many different places. We went to Chile, Uruguay, went to New Zealand, Australia, Hong Kong, Cape Town, went all over the place, America. So yeah, being on those trips, like looking back on it all is just kind of wow, like what an amazing opportunity to be able to do what you love, but then also do it around the world with some of your best friends for life. So I think Shane was correct in saying that the camaraderie was very special in that sort of program. And I guess another part to it as well is a lot of people don't realize with the sevens is that the tournaments, there are 16 teams that take place, but all 16 teams are put up in one hotel, maybe 2 hotels. So you eat with the other teams. Sometimes you're on the same hotel floor as other teams. You're in lifts with them. There'll be 4 or 5 teams in one lift at one stage. You might have you share a training field sometimes. Some teams even train against each other during the week. So not only did you make great friends with your own teammates while you're on tour, but it also gave you an opportunity to make some really great friends on other teams. Some of my best mates, like they play for Wales. I've got great mates on the Kenyan team, South African team, like whatever team it may be. But that's a really nice aspect to the whole thing, I think.
And then, of course, now you're currently on your way to LA. So a slightly different kind of, I suppose, climate is for Ireland. You're getting a bit of sun on your back. But I suppose, how did that kind of come around? You said to me before you were kind of just wanted to play rugby, I suppose, this year. But as far as I think I've seen somewhere, is that a new team going into a league now? So you're kind of starting at sort of the grassroots of the team and going. So tell us a little bit about that.
So basically, COVID, which everyone's heard of at this stage, kind of crept up around this time last year. And when I got back home into Ireland, sport stopped, life stopped, everything. So I just had to try and think about the future, think about how long this was going to affect life as well as sport. Seeing as sport was my profession, it was kind of a big decision, and had to think kind of deeply about it. And I was in a weird situation. So Sevens is so internationally based. All tournaments take place internationally. Every team is an international team from different countries. So straight away, I was kind of getting warning signs, just thinking about how would that work? How would you be able to get 16 teams into a hotel if one person, whether it's staff or player, tested positive? What would that do to the tournament? So it got me thinking, and I was kind of like, wow, we might not be playing sevens for a long time. So my brother, he plays in the American League, the MLR, and he was with the Boston team at the time, and he was back home in Dublin because his season was cancelled, and he was given an opportunity to play in LA, and because LA was a new team and they were getting set up, and the lifestyle, first of all, is so amazing, but then also just like to be able to play out in LA, it's so amazing. So I kind of thought, well, why not try and play with my brother, play in a domestic league? So play in America. If it's domestic, it'll be easier to be able to make the league run and work. So I just thought that realistically, if I was going to be able to play some rugby, I'd be able to do it there. The land of opportunity, as they say. So one thing led to another, and my brother and I, we signed for LA together. So very exciting, and not many people have an opportunity to say that they played professional sport with one of their siblings. So yeah, really grateful for the opportunity, and just going to see how it goes and take in every moment. So very excited for sure.
You won't be back. You'll enjoy it.
I don't know. Don't say that. I'll be back at some stage, yeah. But for now, take it as it comes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Harry, for coming on this afternoon and talking a little bit about your rugby and about what you've been up to. And I wish you the very best of luck for 2021 and your new venture over in LA. I'm so jealous. Enjoy yourself and best of luck.
Thank you so much for having me on. Really appreciate it. And when I am back, I'm sure we'll see each other.